Okay, let me talk about what happened today with the Blue Jays and the Tigers, because there's actually a lot more to unpack here than just a 4-4 tie in spring training. Ernie Clement, 3 for 3, 2 RBIs, a double, a triple, and a single. The only thing missing was the home run, and this guy was literally one swing away from hitting for the cycle in a spring training game. That's the kind of performance that makes you sit up and pay attention, especially when we're talking about a guy who's been fighting for a roster spot. You don't go 3 for 3 with 2 RBIs and nearly hit for the cycle by accident. That's a guy who came to the ballpark locked in, ready to prove something, and he did exactly that today. But let me back up, because the story of this game actually starts before Clement even got his first hit. Cody Ponce. Toronto signed this guy in the offseason after he went and absolutely dominated in South Korea, winning an MVP over there. And today was his first appearance in a Blue Jays uniform in spring training, and the guy was pristine. First 2 batters he faced, strikeouts. Perfect inning, done. That's exactly what you want to see from a pitcher who you're hoping can slot into your rotation or your bullpen and give you quality innings. First impressions matter in spring training, and Ponce made one heck of a first impression today. Now, the Blue Jays came into this game sitting at 1-3-1, so they were not exactly riding high on confidence. They'd been struggling to get things going offensively, which, honestly, is something we've been talking about for a few days now. But today, even though they couldn't push runs across in the first 3 innings despite having runners in scoring position, they finally broke through in the 4th. Kazuma Okamoto leads off with a double. Eloy Jimenez gets a single, puts runners on the corners, and then Nathan Lukes drives in Okamoto with an RBI single. Then, after a pitching change, Clement steps up and rips a 2-run single, and just like that, the Blue Jays are up 3-0. And honestly, at that point, with the way their pitching was looking, you were starting to think, all right, maybe this is the day they finally get into the win column. Through 5 innings, the Tigers had 1 hit. 1. The Blue Jays' pitching was genuinely controlling this game, and it looked like it was going to be one of those comfortable spring training wins where you put a few runs up early and you just cruise. But then the 6th inning happened, and that's where everything fell apart. Pat Gallagher comes in to pitch, gets the first batter out, which is fine, but then Riley Green walks, Josue Briseño singles, Corey Julks drives in the Tigers' first run with a single, and now it's 3-1. Still manageable. Gallagher gets another out, but then Toronto goes to the bullpen and brings in Jack Cushing. Second pitch he throws, Theron Lorenzo takes him deep for a 3-run home run. Tigers lead 4-3, just like that. 1 pitch, 3 runs, complete momentum shift. That's baseball. It happens, but it's still painful to watch, especially when your pitching had been so dominant up to that point. So, now the Blue Jays are down a run, heading into the final innings, and the offense needs to respond. And for most of the game, they just couldn't. It wasn't until the 9th inning that they were able to get something going, and even that was messy. Riley Terada reaches base on a fielding error. Leo Jimenez hits a deep single off the wall, moves Terada to third, but gets thrown out trying to stretch it to second. Tigers make another error, Terada scores, game tied at 4, and then that's it. They couldn't get Arjun Nimala home, the bottom of the 9th is scoreless for both sides, and you've got a tie. Now here's the thing about this game that I think is actually worth paying attention to, beyond just the box score. The Blue Jays have real depth in this lineup. Clement going 3 for 3 is obviously the headline, but you've also got Okamoto contributing, Lukes contributing, Leo Jimenez being part of that late rally. These are guys who are scrapping for opportunities, and when you see that kind of production from the bottom of the roster, it tells you something about the organizational depth that Toronto has been building. The pitching situation is a little more complicated. Ponce was excellent, and that's genuinely exciting, but the bullpen has been inconsistent, and today was another example of that. 1 pitch, 3-run homer, game completely flipped. That's not something you can keep glossing over as it's just spring training. The patterns matter, and the pattern right now is that the Blue Jays' bullpen is a question mark. Toronto heads back to Dunedin on Thursday to face the Miami Marlins, and this team is going to need a win. 1-3-1 is not a record anyone feels good about, even in spring training. But more than the record, they need to see some consistency from the pitching staff, and they need to keep this offensive momentum going. Because today showed that when guys like Clement are locked in and contributing up and down the lineup, this offense can produce. The Clement performance today genuinely deserves more attention than it's probably going to get. 3 for 3, 2 RBIs, a hit for the cycle with only the home run missing. In spring training, yeah, but still, that's the kind of day that can change how a manager looks at you, change how the front office thinks about your role on the roster. Clement's been around, he's a versatile guy who can play multiple positions, and on days like today, he reminds everyone that he can flat out hit too. Watch how they use him going forward. Watch how Ponce builds on that first inning, and watch whether this bullpen can figure things out before the games start to actually matter. Because right now, Toronto's got interesting pieces. They've got some real talent showing up in unexpected places. But there are enough question marks that you can't fully trust what you're seeing yet. Thursday against Miami, let's see if they can finally get that win.